Okay, we're here with Eric again. Eric, we had a question. It was related to Daniel 12. You want to go with that?
Yes. I have addressed Daniel chapter 12 numerous times in other videos. And if you look at the website of aleph-taw.net, many of the videos are just titled by the location or maybe the year, but not by subject matter. So it's and then a lot of times there's many subjects addressed in any one video. So if you only watch part of a video, you're never going to get a sense of the scope of what's being talked about, nor can you find any particular subject. Sorry about that, but in this particular video, we're going to look at Daniel 12, as somebody asked us to see if I can make it as simple and as clear as possible. The thing about Daniel 12 is that it actually starts a number of chapters back. If you look at Daniel 10, verse 1, it starts off, "In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a matter was revealed to Daniel." So this is its own subject. Daniel 9 is another matter. Daniel's fasting for 3 weeks. And then on the 24th day of the first month, he saw this vision, and an angel came and talked to him and showed him things, which goes into chapter 11. There's a couple interesting verses there. In chapter 10, verse 12, he says, "Don't fear, Daniel, from the very first day that you set your heart to understand and to fast before your Elohim, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words." Just the significance of that verse, regardless of anything else, is enough to say that if we have the right heart and we have the right disposition towards Elohim, that's one thing. But here he's saying that Daniel's words actually were the causative force for this angel to be sent on a commission from Elohim to come and talk to Daniel and explain something. So there's you might say, the power of prayer was to actually get a response. Verse 14 says, "I have come to make you understand what will befall your people in the end of days, for there is yet a vision for those days." But if you look at those same words, "there is yet a vision," it says the word "there is yet" is the word ayin vav dalet, which means emphatic and certain. And the word for vision can mean also a staged drama that's predicted, like a theatrical view. So in other words, it seems like this angel is saying, listen, in spite of the other rhyme or reason for human history to go this way or that way, and these nations to overwhelm those nations, and various people to invent certain things, and life on earth to be such this or that, there's a specific staging that's been determined from the beginning, and that staging is concerning the condition, the fate, the future, the destiny, the impact on Am Israel, the people of Israel. I believe it's Michael Rood said, the other nations are almost like scenery and other actors that are around the principal action actors is Israel and Yahweh. Everything else is staging and place setting until the people of Israel come to take their place, almost like being on a checkerboard. So this Daniel 10 verse 14 makes an indication of that. Another interesting verse is 10:21. "I will tell you what is inscribed in truthful writing." So the angel is saying that something has been written. Written where? Written in the heavenlies? Written in the what? I maintain, which is what this whole Erectology study is all about, that the only writing that we can address to know what that's talking about is the aleph-bet itself. The study of the aleph-bet is the study of that which has been determined, placed. It's kind of like the aleph-bet is what they would call a storyboard in the film business, where you, kind of like a cartoon strip, where you have the principal scenes, the principal changes in action, or a different picture. In animation, you have a flip book. So you draw a different picture on each page, and as you flip it, you can see it move. That's how I found this story that's in the aleph-bet, is imagining each one of the letters as if they were pictures staged in a flip book of animation or as a storyboard, like a cartoon strip, and how do you then read that? What does it look like? And for the angel, which seems to be Gabriel, Angel Gabriel here, telling Daniel there is something that's been written and inscribed, and it will happen. So these, it almost seems like like we have festivals in the year. Today happens to be the 25th of December of 2018. A bunch of people celebrate on this day for a very specific reason, regardless of the weather conditions, regardless of the politics, regardless of the economy. And it's almost like that's like the letters of the aleph-bet. Regardless of anything else, certain things are fixed on a schedule, and whether the schedule is actually a date or circumstantial evolution, that's what the aleph-bet is all about. So the study of the aleph-bet is the study of end times, eschatology, is the study of the history of the people of Israel, is the study of the history of people on planet Earth, is the study of the story of Mashiach. As I have tried to explain, Yeshua, I believe, his story is in these 22 letters, in their natural sequence, aleph through tav. That Yahuwah has revealed himself as per John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. This word is the Hebrew aleph-bet. And that word is with Elohim. The letter bet is the prefix letter with, and it is Elohim. That's inferring the letter aleph. So here's the encrypted formula that this word, the dabar, Greek logos, English word, I believe is the aleph-bet. So as you look through chapter 11, it sets up this history, quite lengthy, that various theologians and scholars have tried to interpret. In this particular book of the Stones Tanakh, says a fellow named Rashi, a rabbi, put understanding to which kingdoms these were. And at the last couple verses of chapter 11, it's telling about this conflict, this battle that seems like it's at the end days. And so people over the centuries have tried to figure out, what are the end times? What's the world stage look like for determining that, oh, this is it. Just recently, in fact, was it today that there was supposed to be an eclipse over Washington, D.C. with a blood red moon? And it lines up with one that was in Jerusalem 6 months ago or something. And so some people are saying, oh, these are portents of the end times of this incredible, this is the time. And the time for what? What are we supposed to be looking at? It's like, and do what? That's the question. It's like, okay, let's suggest there is signs in the heavens, as in the book of Joel, the book of Zechariah. So what? What are we supposed to be doing? What should we be expecting? What's our part in the production? Okay, let's say there's blood red moons that say this is a very particular noteworthy moment in the chronology of the various epochs and eras of human life on the face of the earth. And what are we supposed to do about it? Well, this tells us what we're supposed to do about it. In this verse 11, chapter 11, verse 32, it talks about if I can find it here. He will glibly flatter those who corrupt the covenant. But the people who recognize their God will persevere and accomplish. The verse right before that, arms will arise from him and profane the fortified sanctuary. They will abolish the daily offering and install the mute abomination. Or some translations say the abomination of desolation. He will glibly flatter those who corrupt the covenant. What does that mean? Well, if you look at some of these words, in Hebrew, it's yod, het, nun, yod, pei, and then the word bet, het, lamed, kuf, vav, tav. That first word, and this is regarding the Brit, the covenant, and then the word before that, the first word of verse 32 says mem, resh, shin, yod, ayin, yod, which is wicked, evil, sin, guilty. So somebody is now doing evil to the covenant, concerning the covenant, the Brit. In this word, het, nun, pei is the root word, and it means distortion, flattery, polluted, profaned, made godless, hypocritical, or impiety. What does that mean? That means that the covenant that was sacred, kadosh, translated as holy, has been made of no effect, no regard, has made it completely different, have presented it or made it appear completely different than what it really is. The second word, het lamed kuf, means divided portion, separated, smooth, glided, slippery, like an ice rink, a bald character, a difference of opinion, flattery again, fractional, divisive. It's almost like if you could take the scripture and cut it in half or cut it into a section and make this other section completely different and let people think, oh, this one's real smooth, the other one's really rough. The other one was very difficult, but this is nice and easy. Why, this other one was obnoxious, noxious, and irritating, but this one, oh, wow, we could just cruise right along with this other one. And yet, somebody, it says here, has done this and done evil to the covenant by doing so. What could this be? So it's one thing to read these words and think of it as a time long ago or a time long in the future, or it's those other guys of that other religion, they're the ones doing it. And it's like, wait a minute. Could we have maybe found ourselves in the midst of this and not even known it because it's told glibly flattering? Whatever that means. It's doing evil to the covenant by cutting a section of it into a difference of opinion, making it smooth, but it's divisive, separated from the other, and in so being made godless, profaned, and polluted. Now what could that be? But he says, people who know me, their power, their Eloi, their God, their Elohim, be strong. He will be strong and he will accomplish, perform, do it. Though there's something that's been cut and separated and made smooth and slippery, he said the people that know their Elohim will be strengthened to persevere, be steadfast and stalwart, and accomplish the instructions as they were told. What does that look like? Could that be now? Could it be people returning to the Torah and turning away from greasy grace? Gosh, what does that mean? Well, that's some doctrine that some people talk about. We won't even go into that. But what I'm saying, this slippery thing that seems to be so counter to the established ways of the covenant, it seems to be talking about it here, in my mind, in Daniel 11:32. Anyway, it goes on to Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. At that time will be established, placed, told to stand. The word Michael, the prince, the mighty prince, stands with or concerning the regard of my son or my children, B'nai, your people, and exist a time of trouble that doesn't exist such as nation until time this. In other words, it's saying some kind of trouble. And that word trouble is zar, zadi resh he, zara, which is similar to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the place of trouble. And so even in the days of Egypt, where there was the taskmaster of slavery and all that, this says it's going to be even worse than that. And we got to look at the history of the planet and say, gosh, what about when the Huns were ruling across Europe and Asia, and with Hitler's Germany and Stalin's Russia and the British Empire and the Mayans and the Aztecs and are you saying that this is going to be worse than that? Worse in what way? It says it will be such that no time has been like this. So we're looking forward to this horrible thing. That's part of eschatology, the end times. But it says, mem lamed tet. That's the word flee, escape, save, and deliver. Your people all, here's a word, hey nun mem zadi aleph. That's the word finding to exist. All who find what exists, katub besefer, written in the sefer, written in the scroll. All who finds what is written in the scroll is flee and escape. That's not the way it's translated. What it's translated is, at that time, your people will escape. Everything that is found written in this book will occur. Your people will escape. The way they compose this sentence doesn't look like it necessarily fits the words that are in Hebrew. So I could read this. Your people who find what is written, everyone who finds what is written in the Sefer will escape, will be delivered, will be able to flee the coming trouble. Well, that's a good reason to try to figure out what's written in this Sefer. How you translate these words affects how then you regard the text. And if somebody changes the syntax of a couple words and putting it into Greek or English or Latin or some other language, all of a sudden, well, these words just don't matter. But according to what this seems to say, if there's coming a trouble worse than any the planet has ever seen, but those who find what's written in this Sefer will be delivered and escape, that's a pretty good reason. What does it have to do with the blood red moons? Nothing. But if the blood red moons are saying, oh, this is the time, what's the best thing we can do? Hey, let's figure out what's written in this Sefer. That's why we're making these videos, to show you what's written in the Sefer. Well, then it says, many of those who sleep in the dusty earth will awaken. Are those people buried in graves? Are these dead people whose bones have turned to dust? Chapter 12, verse 2 of Daniel, many of those who sleep in the dusty earth will awaken. These for everlasting life, and these for shame for everlasting abhorrence. Verse 3, the wise will shine like the radiance of the firmament, and those who teach righteousness to the multitudes will shine like the stars forever and ever. Who's teaching what to whom? It sounds like if there's a resurrection, okay, people are resurrecting out of the dusty earth, and doing what? Are they floating up into the sky in the rapture unto the heavenlies? But then who's teaching what to whom? Why? Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there's another way to translate this. You could say, many important mem yod shin nun yod. That word mem yod shin nun means old-fashioned or antiquated or former condition existing as different. But that's the word translated as sleep, because the word sleep and change and teeth, it's all the same word, shana. This word is shani. Like, then the word is aleph dalet mem tav, which is translated earth, but it means, dalet mem is the word for likeness or silent, and then the word ayin pei resh, affair, meaning dust, debris, covered, or gray. You could say, wait a second. It could be that the antiquated ways, the ways of the original covenant, have been found, the important things have been found to be buried in dust, become silent. And then it goes on to say, and will wake up or awaken. It's like being discovered, or the people will wake up to them, some unto life, and some unto, and then here's the word, chet resh pei, and dalet resh aleph-tav nun. And it means, chet resh pei can mean two things, betrothed or designated, but also blasphemy, shame. It sounds like the same two conditions of the 10 bridesmaids in the gospel message that fell asleep and they woke up. Some were rejected and some were taken in to be with the bridegroom when he showed up. This is the same distinction here. Reproach, scorn, disgrace, wintry hibernation, edge of a tool, sharp cut, abhorrence, shame, aversion, or betrothed as designated. Forever. It sounds like, are people resurrecting out of the grave unto either being cast into heaven or hell? Or is it saying the true things that we were told in the days of our forefathers, Moshe and David and the various writings of the scriptures that have laid buried, dusty, indistinguishable? We were told that they were done away with. A separation was made, and at some point people are going to wake up and go, wait a minute, these are words of life. And other people go, no, these are words of shame and to be averted. They're scorn and disgrace. Is it the words that's being separated? People's reaction to these words. And then he goes on to say, the very next verse, verse 3, the word is shakil, prudent, wise, understanding, intelligence, cunning, which is applying the mind, crafty, which is to say using to fit things together. This word shakil is telling us to use our human intellect applied to the words, to figure it out. This is where we apply the labor of our minds. Someone told me, it's carnal to think. Just be led in the Spirit. That kind of sounds like that slippery stuff. This sounds like he's telling us in Daniel 12:3 to use your brain. And when you take substances, whether they're legal or not, whether they think of them as a sin or not, but if you take substances which destroy the ability to use your brain, you're the one that's going to miss out. He told us to think. He told us to use and shine like the shining of the firmament. The firmament is what we would call the sky, which is where you take a piece of metal and you pound it and you flatten it and you stretch it like a dough that you roll out to make a pie crust or something. That's the picture that's in the word. It's the word, the rakia, the shining of the rakia. And then it's mem, zadi, dalet, yod, kuf. My righteousness, the place of, or the manifestation of my righteousness. But that word righteousness, zadik, is also victory and deliverance. The multitudes, like stars forever and ever. It's translated, those who teach people the ways of righteousness will shine like the stars forever. It could be read differently, but the attitude here is to say, it's not too late. It's not to the point where we can sit here and say, oh, hey, look, there's a couple blood moons over Jerusalem and Washington, D.C. The rapture bus must be on its way. Let's just sit back and go for the cruise. This is the time to wake up and learn the ways of righteousness, which look to me like it's in the spelling of the words of the Hebrew language. We're going to have to stop this short and go to a second part 2 of this video in the interest of people that are watching. But then it steps right into Daniel 12:4. And then this angel, Gabriel, says to Daniel, as for you, Daniel, obscure the matters and seal the book until the time of the end. Let many muse and let knowledge increase. Wait a minute, if it was important for us to know, why was Daniel told to hide these words and seal the book? And I maintain that Daniel did that by changing the letters of the aleph-bet from the pictographic paleo into the modern, what's called Chaldean flame letters. Approximately 500 BC, gave it to Ezra, who brought it back from the Babylonian captivity to Jerusalem, and that birthed the entire modern age of the what's called the square font flame letters of the modern Hebrew text. That verse, Daniel 12:4, that's what we're going to get into in just a moment, but I'm just trying to say that for verses 4 through 13, and then that's the end of the book of Daniel, the end of chapter 12. These last verses encode the meanings of the letters of the alphabet. Each one of these verses tells you the meaning of the 22 letters, not 27, but 22, and I will explain what that means. And this is a couple reasons why I bring this up. One is to say, hey, look, this is the meaning of the letters, but also I maintain that the chronology of the letters is the map of eschatology. If you know what these letters mean, you can see the map of human history, and you can then figure out, gee, what if, where are we now? What if it's at this letter or that letter? What's in front of us? What did we just come through? And it gives us a perspective of expectation. The hope set before us is not this blind, arbitrary doctrine, but it's based on the script of what was written to encourage the people of Yahweh, the people of Israel, that he came and told Daniel to put into a package where it can't be messed with by changing the letter style, and it floats, as it were, a seed in the wind, like a little dandelion seed was given a little sail, like the sailing ship. You know, the interesting thing, why I'm sitting in front of this ship, is that there's the name Yaakov, translated Jacob. Ayin Kuf Bet literally means to follow the wake of a ship, to follow the footprints as a detective doing the work of sleuthing, trying to follow the signs and indications so that you know where you're going, to find where you're supposed to be, to find the answer, the solution to the riddle. To realize that the ship leaves a wake and be able to read that wake, reading the trail signs, is the meaning of the word Jacob, Yaakov. For us to read the meanings of the letters encoded, encrypted, very esoterically, is doing the sleuthing detective work of following the wake of the ship of the aleph-tav in Daniel 12. We'll get to that in just a moment.
2 parts, huh?
Part 2 is coming right up.
Alrighty.